You see, in my opinion, Malayalam industry in all of India produces the most number of suspense thrillers that I've seen so far across all Indian languages. I don't think anybody can argue that data point, right? It's evident. And just when you thought you've seen it all from the industry, they somehow have the knack to come up with something new in the same suspense thriller genre and yet make it interesting and yet manage to keep you at the edge of your seat for the entire duration of the movie. And Sookshmadarshini is one such movie that hooked me up from the first frame until the last frame for the entire duration of 2.5 hours. And it's a suspense thriller. I don't know how they do it. It's a miracle. It's amazing. Now let's get into the details. And if this is the first time you're watching a video on my channel, please do consider subscribing. Now let's get to the video. When you talk about suspense thrillers, anywhere, normally, what do you expect? There is a crime or a series of crimes that happens. Typically, they end up in a whodunit kind of mold. And somebody is going to investigate those crimes and eventually solve the puzzle and figure out who is the person who committed those crimes and the reason why, behind the reason, why the crimes have been committed. Sookshmadarshini takes the same idea, but then slightly changes the perspective a little bit. It is a crime thriller. It is a suspense thriller, but the suspense doesn't lie in finding out who done it, but rather what done it. So what I mean by that is, a crime is going to happen. You know who is going to commit the crime and who is committing the crime, but you just don't know what and the why. Like, why is that person committing the crime and what exactly is the crime the person is committing? Now, it's very hard to make this kind of story interesting, and yet somehow director MC Jatin, along with his co-writers Atul Ramachandran and Libin TB, manages to keep you engaged from the first frame until the last frame. Sookshmadarshini is a story about Priyadarshini, played by Nazriya Nazim, a normal young middle class housewife. Well, not exactly a housewife. She has a small job. She's trying to find a better job. Lives in a typical middle class South Indian neighborhood in Kerala, where every neighbor knows everybody else. And then they even share a WhatsApp group early in the morning, sharing gossips and happenings across their neighborhood. We see those kind of neighbors all the time, right? Those are your typical WhatsApp aunties or uncles, your typical nosy neighbors that know everything that's going on. Now, given this scenario, Manuel, played by Basil Joseph, enters their neighborhood as one of their neighbors. He is moving back into his house along with his mother, who is suffering from Alzheimer's. Now, what is the crime? Who is Manuel? Why did he end up in the neighborhood after so many years? What exactly is the crime? And what is the relationship among the crime, Manuel, and Priyadarshini forms the rest of the story. Now, when I first saw the trailer, and even in the movie, when I was watching the movie, I couldn't help but draw parallels from a 2021 movie Telugu movie called Bhama Kalapam, played by Priyamani, where even Priyamani is a nosy neighbor, but that's where the similarities end between that movie and Sookshmadarshini. It's a nosy neighbor. Right? At the end of the day, that's what it is. It's a nosy neighbor. That's it. However, this movie takes an entirely different turn and keeps you engaged. And besides the screenplay, I think the other most important thing that I should talk about is the brilliant acting by Nazriya Nazim as Priyadarshini and Basil Joseph as Manuel. The screenplay is such that the what of the crime and the why of the crime, as an audience, you are actually finding out just at the same time Priyadarshini is finding out in the story. That is what keeps you engaged, because you are invested in figuring out what exactly happened and what the crime is. And you want to know why that is happening. And that is a brilliance of both all the three writers, the director, and of course, I should mention also the editor, Chaman Chako, because the editing was so craftful just to give you enough information to relate yourself with Priyadarshini in the movie, and just to hide information so that you will find out the same time Priyadarshini is finding out. I think that's brilliantly done by the editor Chaman Chako. And the music director, Christo Xavier, he gave a banger of an album called Brahma Yugam earlier this year. And he takes a drastically different route in this movie because the entire movie is about a nosy neighbor trying to find out what is going on. So the curiosity is a central theme of this movie, and the background music suits perfectly with this theme. It is curious, you are discovering things, and the music is very loud and clear to let you know that you are actually discovering things. There is a little bit of comic tinge to it because, yes, when it's a nosy neighbor and the story is such that there are a lot of gossip going on, there is scope for comedy and there is a little bit of humor in it, and the music is suiting perfectly to all those situations. And Christo Xavier, terrific design, terrific music in this movie. And when I said design, I should also mention sound design by Vishnu Govind and Foley recordist Manoj Kumar. Beautiful work. I mean, the way they mix sounds in this movie actually are very organic. You feel that, as I said, every aspect is very important because, as I mentioned again, we are Priyadarshini. It's not Nazriya Nazim who is Priyadarshini in the movie. The audience is Priyadarshini. And all those aspects, we need to hear what Priyadarshini is hearing in the movie. And we need to discover the events that are happening in the movie just as Priyadarshini would discover the events, right? So even every little bit of detail is extremely important, and sound design is no less. They have done a brilliant job in hooking you in and engaging you through and through. I did feel the editing could have been a little better, a tad bit better, because there are a few transitions between scenes that I noticed a little bit jarring. Although they all make sense in the end, it just a little bit of transition issues I noticed. I think, I'm willing to overlook those, but I'm just mentioning because I notice and I cannot forget them, right? And at the end of the day, the climax, the payoff, when you actually find out what is going on, is the feeling is so amazing, right? Just as Priyadarshini finds out in the movie herself when she solves the crime, as an audience, you feel the same sense of accomplishment as Priyadarshini would have in the movie. I think that is the brilliance of this. So I highly recommend watching this movie to everybody. This is a terrifically done movie, brilliantly acted. This is one of those movies where I'd say, don't underestimate the Malayalam movie industry. Every time you think they are given it all, they manage to come up with something new. So that's it for this video. If you like this video, please do share, like this video, and comment on what you think about the movie if you watched it. And again, subscribe to the channel if it's the first time you're watching the video on my channel. And keep watching Cinephile India. I'll meet you again in the next video. Until then, take care.